Show, the weekly show with Aditya.
This is episode 323 on the 8th of February 2021. Let's start this morning's episode, this chilly morning's episode, with a song which defines what is a budget in the context of economic progress. ना बीवी ना बच्चा ना बाप बड़ा ना मैया द होल थिंग इज दैट कि भैया सबसे बड़ा रुपैया ना बीवी ना बच्चा ना बाप बड़ा ना मैया द होल थिंग इज दैट कि भैया सबसे बड़ा रुपैया बिन रुपैया के मिस्टर तेरी मम्मी का प्यार जो पैदा करता तुझे तो कभी ना कर सकता मेरे यार डॉक्टर लौट जाता फी ना मिलती अगर तू माँ के पोते के अंदर रह जाता हर बार एज इंडिया आर 305 for 7 with Sundar batting on 58 and Nadeem on 0 with Ashwin dismissed for 31. The whole thing is that कि भैया सबसे बड़ा रुपैया हाथ खाली अगर तू मर गया मेरी जान ना अग्नि तुझे छुएगी ना धरती देंगी मान हद है ये मेरे भाई ये खुदाओं का घर तेरी दौलत ने बनाया तो खुश हुआ अल्लाह भगवान तू इस दुनिया के खातिर जोड़ जा आना पाया द होल थिंग इज दैट कि भैया सबसे बड़ा Rupaiya as Leach bowls to Nadeem, who defends nicely. India are 305 for 7, 7 for 305. As it was a good catch taken by Butler with Stokes and Butler almost colliding. कि भैया सबसे बड़ा रुपैया as Nadeem defends 7 for 305 after 86.3 overs. It was the new ball effect with the money ball, as one would like to call it, bit of bounce, bit of spin. एक लीडर को देखो है is looking for every francs. उड़ता फिरता डिनर इन होटल सन एंड सैंड उसके लड़की की शादी देख के जाए ना पूछ कहाँ से आया ये हाथी कहाँ से आया ये इंग्लिश बैंड आज कहाँ का नेशन कहाँ कर धरती मैया द होल थिंग इज दैट कि भैया सबसे बड़ा रुपैया नाउ लेट्स लुक एट द लास्ट 5 लाइन्स आज कहाँ का नेशन कहाँ की धरती मैया द होल थिंग इज दैट कि भैया सबसे बड़ा रुपैया इट्स ट्रू देयर इज नो नेशन देयर इज नो अर्थ इवन इफ there is in conversation about climate change it's all about money how much money can the countries pour in climate change how much can the countries go from fossil fuels to electric vehicles and now how we are also fooled that electric vehicles will help in reducing the ecological damage which we saw in Uttarakhand yesterday. Now it's a very paradoxical situation. If houses are not built for humans, should humans go back to living in forest the way humans lived over 100 or a millennia ago? Or should, in the effort to build more houses, they affect the ecological, the forest, damage the forest, fossil fuels, even if cars are run with electric vehicles are introduced, automation is introduced, even there's still a debate that it will still take a lot out. For example, I'm using my computer or my TV to watch a match. Yes, there is this pride that I'm using internet to watch the match or I'm using the cable TV to watch the match. It still expands a lot of energy. But remember, energy can neither be created nor destroyed. So this whole conversation about climate change is just farce. Nobody is concerned about climate change. They are rather concerned about the money being poured so that a few individuals can be happy. But we'll discuss that later. Let's look at these four lines again as Sundar defends 7 for 3 or 5, which means that all the onus is on Sundar. They are 74 runs away to avoid the follow on. If they don't avoid the follow on, they get out for 340, 330, which is still a possibility. England have a lead around 240, and England have to make at least 260, so that India needs 500 to win tomorrow, which means unless something dramatic happens at 73 for 4, England thought we'll get India out for 200, we'll have a lead of around 400, we'll bat for around 30-40 overs and we'll give a target of around 600 to the team and we'll win the match. But good contributions from Pujara, Sundar, Pant, even Ashwin means that England now have to do all the hard work unless there is a collapse, or the longer India bat, they have already made around 45 runs in 15 overs.
It's 10:30.
This time the ball goes through. Of course, the new ball effect happens, which is nothing new. But let's look at these three lines again. Aaj kahan ka nation, kahan ki dharti maiya. The whole thing is that ki bhaiya sabse bada Rupaiya. This is very important to understand. There is no nation, there is no nationalism. As I talked about this astutely in my previous episode, it's all about money, it's all about profits. Whoever gains the profit has an advantage. Before we go further, the final ball of the 88th over with Sundar batting on 58, and with the tail there, how long can the likes of Nadeem, Ishant and Bumrah carry on? Can Sundar do something extraordinary, or will there be a collapse? It's a 50-50 situation. This time Sundar flicks and there's an attempt of a run out and it's missed completely by the fielder. Let's take a short break. And it's a no ball. It's a no ball, which means extra run being given. We saw so much of no balls bowled by India. I think the umpires are harsh as far as the no balls are concerned. This hit the batter. Now, were they appealing for the obstruction of the field? I don't think so. The batter was blinded when he was running. So Nadeem on strike, it could be advantage England. England could get a wicket and then things could happen. Let's see what happens. Now officially the final ball is being bowled unless there's another no ball. So a lot of things to discuss as we go into the break. As Archer, well, this is what is interesting about this sport. Everybody is relaxed. They take their own sweet time. There is no pressure of time, no pressure of the clock running backwards. As Archer steams into bowl and once again something obstructs the batter or the bowler, he stops in his tracks. Let's continue this discussion. Once again, Archer steaming in to bowl to Nadeem. A full toss down the leg side and ends the over at 7 for 307. Let's take a short break. Welcome back after the break as we go on with the second song of this morning's episode. Cause he gets up in the morning and he goes to work at 9, he comes back home at 5:30, gets the same train every time. Cause his world is built around punctuality, it never fails. And he's oh so good, and he's oh so fine, and he's oh so healthy in his body and in his mind. He is a well respected man about town, doing the best things so conservatively, and his mother goes to meetings while his father pulls the maid, and he stirs the tea with counselors while discussing foreign trade. And she passes looks as well as bills at every suave young man, cause he's so good and he's so fine and he's so healthy in his body and in his mind. He is a well respected man about town, doing the best things so conservatively, and he likes his own backyard, and he likes his fag the best because he's better than the rest, as India are 307 for 7. And his own sweat smells the best, and he hopes to grab his father's loot when patter passes on, cause he's so good and he's oh so fine and he's oh so healthy in his body and his mind. He's a well respected man about town, doing the best things so conservatively, and he plays at stocks and shares, and he goes to the regatta, and he adores the girl next door because he's dying to get at her, but his mother knows the best about the matrimonial stakes because he's so good and he's so fine and oh he's so healthy in his body and his mind. He is a well respected man about town, doing the best things so conservatively. Now let's look at some of the lines in this song. Cause he gets up in the morning and he goes to work at 9. That defines the majority of the population, despite the whole conversation and the whole excitement about work from home. It still doesn't. People still want to go and work in an office, work in that environment where they can talk to their pseudo friends or pseudo colleagues. And he comes back home at 5:30, gets the same train every time. This has been happening for millennia. Cause his world is built around personality. It never fails. Everything is around your personality. And he's oh so good, and he's oh so fine, and he's oh so healthy in his body and his mind. There has been so much conversation around mental health and physical health connected with work from home. Even if let's look at this a song from the point of view of 2020 and 2021. Because he gets up in the morning, check. He goes to work at 9 on your desktops or laptops at 9, and he comes back home at 5:30. Maybe that is not true, but for some it could be. Gets the same train every time. Maybe he gets the same food every time at home. So a few things change, but not much. The first few lines, it's all about respect, and this song is perfect for the 22nd century working person. This was obviously targeted at the white collar and the blue collar worker. How did that come about, white collar and blue collar? I don't understand, but that's how it is. White collar could be the finance, the blue collar could be the hard working people on making construction of buildings. But it's generally a very interesting situation. But before we go any further, let's look at the match situation. 70 runs to avoid the follow-on. Sundar in his second match, the senior batter, Nadeem, all he has to do is survive. Anything is possible. They may avoid the follow-on. They may not avoid the follow-on. England will get a lead, but having a bigger lead doesn't mean that if they get a lead of 240, they will only bat 15 overs and say India chase 300. No, that means as the ball goes towards long on and Sundar takes the single, smart batting that leaves Nadeem to bat 2 balls, but call it very well. I think he's played well, Sundar, going by his name. So I wouldn't really mock somebody's name just because he's playing Sundar. Let's not get into that debate right now. Let's look at this. There has been so much criticism about India's batting with respect to what happened. Yes, Every newspaper, every media channel is saying that India batted poorly. They bowled so many no balls. They allowed England to score around 600 runs. But remember, apart from Joe Root, a bit of Dominic Sibley and Ben Stokes, nobody else contributed. They all made 30s, but it's meaningless. Yes, Kohli and Rahane did not score runs, but they are not robots. They're not expected to score runs all the time. That's not how this works. And there's debate about Kuldeep Yadav not being picked up. I think that debate is also a little rude on others. They had to pick. If Jadeja was there, Sundar would have never played. That's one thing. Sundar would have not been even in the 20 squad. If Jadeja is fit, for me in the next match, I would go with. Now look at this. England went with 5 bowlers, but Joe Root does not trust Ben Stokes to bowl more. Stokes has bowled around 10-12 overs. He hasn't done more than that. He doesn't trust Ben Stokes. He basically has 4 and 3/4 bowlers. He has to rely on his 2 fast bowlers and his 2 spinners. And Stokes was supposed to be the 3rd fast bowler, but he's not been given a chance in the 1 hour they have been here today. He is in the same situation like Cameron Green. Cameron Green in Australia did not get too many opportunities to bowl. So, in that way, if Stokes is going to bowl 6-7 overs, is he injured? Does he not want to bowl? Is the fact that he was taking a break, he came back after 3-4 months of breaks. Maybe he's not in that bowling zone. I don't know what's happening. As this ball scored away to 3rd man, well played. Sundar goes to his highest score of 64. So this Ben Stokes thing is very strange. What did the coach tell Root? Is Ben Stokes not fit enough to bowl? If that's the case, if he's going to bowl 3-4 overs, 6-7 overs, and then not bowl for 2-3 hours, and we could have included Pandya. Pandya could have bowled 2-3 overs. They could have had, and they went with Ollie Pope because they don't trust Sam Curran. That they went with Ollie Pope to strengthen their batting. I would have preferred a Sam Curran. Yes, Ollie Pope is also a future guy. Nobody is denying that. But I would have preferred, I would have got with Sam Curran. He would have been the 3rd fast bowler, a left arm bowler. That would have been really helpful. And they could have got an extra batting zip. They could have gone with 4 fast bowlers and 2 spinners. Right now they're only going with 4 bowlers if Stokes is not going to bowl. And if Joe Root comes and bowls, then the entire thing of Stokes not bowling, I don't know what's happening. I don't want to create a controversy, but there's something is not right. Some things are afoot as Sherlock Holmes, as this one is edged, but it's not Australia. It will never, Indian wickets, I don't even know why do we play in India. There's no bounce. The spin is a joke. It's the bowler's skill. The pitch is flat as a road. It's a dead pitch. There's no bounce. The ball doesn't go to the fielder directly. There's no fun. If a team scores 600, the only way a team is going to win is if the other team collapses badly. But as someone said, if one team can score 600, so can the other team. And that's why in India most matches are draw. Unless there's a collapse, unless there's some pseudo miracle which happened in Calcutta 20 years ago where India were given the follow-on and they went on to win the match, that's a different story. But if you look at most of the times 700, 800 runs have been scored in India, it's a draw. It's a freaking draw. Unless if a team gets out for 240, then we can say yes, it's an exciting match. But right now, day 4, almost 4 days done, 4.5 days done, 2 more sessions after this. Waiver delivery bouncer, and of course the umpires don't call it a wide in the 5-day matches, but let's not get over there. Stokes on bowling. If that's the case, then I would have got Pandya. Of course, Kuldeep Yadav versus Nadeem versus Akshar Patel was going to be Even if Kuldeep Yadav was there, would he have done something differently? I don't know. But the decision to play Sundar and Ashwin as the all-rounders, a great job. In the next match, let's see what happens. As Sundar plays it away, flicks it, and ends the over. 90 gone, 7 for 3, 1, 2. Let's take a short break. Welcome back after the break. Now let's discuss something which is pertinent. There's always this conversation as to which are the most in demand skills. Now let me just make it very easy for my listeners. The 10 most globally in demand jobs are a customer service specialist, a data analyst, a digital marketing specialist, a financial analyst, a graphic designer, a IT administrator, a IT support, help desk technician, a project manager, a sales representative, and a software developer. Now let's divide this into two parts. What do a customer service specialist, a IT support help desk technician, a sales representative, and a project manager have in common? They need to have good communication skills. These are just names of your profession, but this has changed. You can give different names to the same job, but what do these four jobs or skills have in common? They need to be good communicators. For me, communication is the only skill that is common. It has been there over the past millions of years, ever since humanity became domesticated or humanity was present in this galaxy. It is the only constant skill, irrespective of the demography, the geographical region, the only consistent skill that everybody needs to communicate, irrespective of the language. Whether you are from France speaking French, from Germany, from any other part of the world, from India, from different states, this one edged the bounce of the new ball gets another wicket, another one goes, and Jack Leach gets another wicket. But coming back to the discussion, the only skill that is required, irrespective of whether it's the 21st century, 22nd century, how we communicate, the definition of communication has changed over the years, from face-to-face communication to fax messages to letter writing, but it's still a communication. If a customer service specialist, a IT support help desk technician, a project manager, a sales representative can't communicate what they want to their respective customers or whoever is answering them a question, irrespective of the language that is present, whether it's Hindi, English, Gujarati, Marathi, let's not get there. If they cannot communicate through emails, texts, even through the pseudo media of Twitter and Facebook, or verbal communication, then I think I don't see what is in demand. A customer service specialist is no one without communication skills. A project manager is nobody without. Project manager means a leader, if that's how we take it, leadership. But a leader has to be a good communicator. If they cannot communicate their ideas, if a coach in a team cannot communicate the ideas to the players, to the captain and the and the hierarchy of the coach to the captain to the players. If that doesn't happen, there is a miscommunication, or the captain decides that whatever the coach says, I will do exactly the opposite. Then it's and then if there's no good relation rapport between the coach and the captain, then it's a waste of time. So a sales representative, they come at your door, they want to sell a product either through text messages. The content of the message is very important. It's not a big deal being a sales representative if you cannot communicate what your company wants, or if you're a freelance. So for me, these globally in demand jobs are basically useless if you don't have the communication skills. When I talk about communication skills, it's about verbal, non-verbal communication. For example, I sent an article to a magazine about the article I wanted the magazine to publish, but they did not send me any auto reply. It shows what the magazine thinks of their readers. If there is no auto reply, no thank you, it sends a bad message. So, it's not about being specialist. These are basic skills. It's not about thank you. It's about how you perceive. You think you have this arrogance that things can happen. But communication skills, the only skill needed. It's all about interpretation. No other skill is permanent. 100 years from now, there may not be a customer service specialist. All these jobs could be replaced by robots, but somebody will need to input the data in the robot, what the voice over, even if when we call a company there is a IVR, yes, but how easy they make us for us to press different buttons. For Hindi, press 1, for English, press 2, and then when we talk to them, how they communicate with us, even if they are frustrated. So for me, 100 years from now, none of these jobs may exist. That's a matter of interpretation. But the only skill that will remain permanent is the communication skills. Other skills are domain specific, may become redundant. One may think that. So now let's look at some examples. So when England made 270 runs on day 1, let's look at some of the headlines of the different newspapers. Times of India said smoking Joe. England skipper Root sizzles with ton in his 100th test, adds 200 for the third wicket with Sibley to send India on a leader hunt. This is how this particular newspaper interpreted the match. Let's look at another newspaper, the same situation but different words. Root masterclass lights up milestone test. Skipper celebrates 100th match with a century. Sibley plays a supporting role to perfection. The third newspaper, the root of India's misery. England captain scores a century in his 100th match. Partners Sibley to put visitors in control after day 1. Same story, but 3 different newspapers communicating the same situation with 3 different words. As another beauty bold by Anderson. Now let me give you another example. A while ago, before India were 3-1-2 for 8, Ashwin and Sundar were batting. Now they are from the same state, which means they understand the same language. They speak the same language literally. One has played 2 matches, the other one has played 75 matches, but they're communicating in their own language, Tamil, because they're on the field. They can understand that language, they're communicating. So yes, even if they're skilled sports person, if they don't communicate, then they won't get the idea to the other. Even if 100 years from now, cricket is no longer a sport, or there are other sports, communication will remain the only skill. Gig workers or skills like Python, machine learning, data structures, digital marketing, HTML5 are all redundant. These skills are all useless if you cannot communicate your idea to someone. So I think I would prefer a communicator over any of these. As what a shot from Sundar, flicks it away for a 6, moves on to 70, ends the over. It's 3-1-8 for 8. Let's continue this discussion after the break. Now let's look at these lines. If you are a graduate or you are working for 2-3 years, go learn the skills that digital companies need. As Ishan sweeps beautifully, what a shot by Ishan Sharma at number 10. He is a good batter, a decent batter. Coding, digital content, engine optimization, or cloud management. For me, good skills needed but still redundant. If you cannot communicate, whether you are coding basically means communicating with the machine. Machine learning means what are you trying to tell the machine that you will do these activities on your own. If you don't do it correctly, if you give the wrong code, or there's a if you don't understand it yourself, what are you trying to do, then all these skills have no meaning. These skills are redundant. 100 years from now, coding won't make a difference. Content, yes, it's always about content. How you speak, the 5 W's and 1 H. What, why, when, how, where. If you know about this, then you are in a good place. It's not just about earning money. Let's not get caught into this coding or hackathon. I don't see why we are so excited about hackers. Who are hackers? Why do we have hackers? Have we ever thought before we see hackers as the wrong people, or we communicate to the world that hacking is wrong ethically, legally, morally? Why do we have hackers? Why do hackers do what hackers do? What are they trying to communicate through hacking someone or through their activities? Did we ever understand that? Because if you are working for the government and you have the skills to hack, then you are a good person. But if you are hacking against the authorities, then you are obviously a villain. So that is the communication, that is the message being brought up. But apart from that, why people hack, it's a matter of interpretation. But coding, cloud management, first you should know what are you managing. Even if I have 1000 TB in my space, but I don't know what to put it in, then all this effort is wasted. So that is why communication is the only skill. 100 years from now, a million years from now, even if you go back 1000 years, when there was no way, the only way to talk to someone, if there was no technology, even if technology comes, technology is only a medium. Rest is all about communication. As Washington Sundar, having trust in Ishan, takes a single. Now let's look at this. Ishan Sharma is from Delhi. Sundar is from Chennai. Sundar may not be comfortable in Hindi, and Ishan may not know much of Tamil. But they are both sports persons. they need not communicate verbally, they can just communicate through their non-verbal communication. That's also very important. All that Sundar has to say is in a language which they understand, that you bat, let's stretch this, let's trouble England as long as possible. That is the only communication needed. Even if they don't understand the languages in detail, that doesn't matter. But if they can communicate non-verbally through hand gestures, through certain sign language that this particular sports presents, saying that the ball is swinging or you bat, just give that signal. They're communicating. They are skilled sports person, but they need to communicate. Similarly, if Root and Anderson are talking as this one is edge straight to the bowler, that is very important. You may be skilled, but we all get excited about edutech, that we can learn from anywhere. Very interesting. But if the person who is giving us lessons cannot communicate the idea in a simplistic manner, there is no need to get excited about this edutech boom. If I start a class on communications and I give examples, but if the students are not interested, they want
It's 11
the
hours.
age-old notes. They want me to just provide them everything on a platter without giving them any kind of examples. Then my effort is wasted because they are not interested. Their effort is wasted because they come with certain expectations and they come with certain ideas that since I'm only preparing for all these exams, all these competition exams, all the entrance exams, I have a certain thing in mind. So if the two can't communicate, then the accessibility of education will not help. It's not just having access to computers, as Ishan defends smartly. He knows what he has to do. He is the senior guy, almost playing his 100th match. Sundar playing his second match, 98 plus 2, 100 matches. So Ishan Sharma has done this a million times. Sundar has been impressive. So maybe Sundar doesn't need to communicate to Ishan Sharma what to do. Ishan knows that I have to be there. Even the coach won't have to tell him that you need to stick around, you need to hang around. He knows he has to hang around. You don't play 100 matches and not know what to do. As this one, a top edge, and another wicket goes 9 down. So wickets coming quickly as expected with the new ball in play. But he tried his best, and this is what happens. In the same context, Anderson knows what he has to do. He is frustrated that the wickets are not falling, but he knows he has to hang around and he'll do that job in the way he's done it for over 19 years. As we take a short break. Welcome back after the break. So at 9 for 3, 2, 3, one may think that with the lead of 250 and the follow on not going to happen because of previous instances. This is day 4. So the only communication is if India are out right now, they scored around 70 runs and took 4 wickets and they almost survived 90 minutes, which means England will have around 25 minutes to bat, which is interesting. But Sundar remains, who's done a brilliant job. But let's just read from the memoirs of Sherlock Holmes by Arthur Conan Doyle, The Adventure of the Silver Blaze, as Bumrah will face Anderson. Inspector Gregory, to whom the case has been committed, is an extremely competent officer. Look at these words being communicated by the protagonist, extremely competent officer. So it's all about trying to show that he has the confidence in this particular police officer. Were he but gifted with imagination, he might rise to greater heights in his profession. On his arrival, he promptly found and arrested the man upon whom suspicion naturally rested. In simple words, these words are being communicated. Not complex. Yes, English is being used, but that's not relevant. There was little difficulty in finding him, for he inhabited one of those villas which I have mentioned. His name, it appears, was Fitzroy Simpson. He was a man of excellent birth and education who had squandered a fortune upon the turf, and who lived now by doing little quiet and genteel book making in the sporting clubs of London. An examination of his betting book shows that bets to the amount of £5,000 had been registered by him against the favourite. Now, I told you, Joe Root is coming to bowl means he doesn't trust Ben Stokes, or Stokes has communicated to the captain that I'm not fit enough to bowl. That's, well, it's a matter of interpretation. Is he injured? Is he not fit enough to bowl? He doesn't want to bowl. When you have five good bowlers and you still bring on Root. Yesterday, couple of days ago, India got in Rohit Sharma. And then they asked, why bring in Rohit Sharma when you have five good bowlers? But look at this. As Root bowls to Sundar, who smashes it away for a boundary. Good shot. There you go. If that's the communication, that if India gets in, you won't call Root a part-timer, but you will call Rohit Sharma a part-timer. That in that case, I will call Sachin Tendulkar, Sehwag, even the likes of Sanat Jayasuriya, Carl Hooper, who played million years ago, as part-timers. No, they're all-rounders. So that's the obsession we have. That's the communication the pseudo-experts try to send. That's the hype created around. This time he tries to pull it away, but he will take and they might just come for 2 runs. Chance of a run out, but he's safe. Now, the keeper Butler said that the class of 2012-2013 was great. Now, is he being humble, or is the communication from others that you have, because they won 2-1 and there was so much hype created around the likes of Panesar and Swan that everybody was in awe of them, and Dominic Bess and Jack Leach are nowhere near Swan. And this time flicked. This is what Sundar will do. A 6. He is going to make sure that the margin is reduced. Is he looking for his maiden 100? It will be a great effort, and if that happens, I might just promote him as a night watchman. But we'll go to that later. So this whole communication by a few newspapers, pseudo media, pseudo experts, obsession around that 2012-2013 win, obsession around Graham Swan and Panesar. Well, neither Graham Swan nor Panesar can bat like this. So were they good bowlers? Yes, but that team had aging players. Dravid had retired. Dhoni was suffering the wrath of 8-0 previous years. Kohli was in his just younger years. Tendulkar and Lakshman were also retiring, and this time he cuts away straight to the fielder. Tendulkar was almost 39, and there were a few fringe players here and there. So I don't think, yes, Cook batted well and the spinners did the job, but still it doesn't come in my books of greatness. But we'll discuss that later. As he cuts, turn and bounce, no runs. Let's continue the story. An examination of his betting book shows that bets to the amount of £5,000 had been registered by him against the favourite. On being arrested, he volunteered the statement as root bowls. Sundar defends take the single, smart batting but poor captaincy to bring himself on. On being arrested, he volunteered the statement that he had come down to Dartmoor in the hope of getting some information about the king's Pineland horses and also about the Desborough, the second favourite, which was in charge of Silas Brown at the Mapleton stables. He did not attempt to deny that he had acted as described upon the evening before, but declared that he had no sinister designs and had simply wished to obtain first hand information. When confronted with his cravat, he turned very pale and was utterly unable to account for his presence in the hand of the murdered man. His wet clothing showed that he had been out in the storm of the night before, and his stick, which was a Penang lawyer weighted with lead, was just a weapon as might, by repeated blows, have inflicted the terrible injuries to which the trainer had succumbed. Now let's get back to the match. Yes, England still have a lead of over 240 runs, but if this was the other way around, this was England and you had somebody at number 7, number 8 batting on 84, and India had made 580 runs, India would have been criticized for poor captaincy. It's as simple as that. But it's England, it's a hype. Nobody will, when you have scored nearly 600 runs. When Joe Root said that he wants to score 600 runs, I knew from that moment that they are come with a defeatist mindset. They may have a big lead, but they have stretched the match to day 4. They should have declared around 500 something. They would have had a lot of time to have an impact on this match, unless something miracle happens. Even if England get a lead around 200, which they will, I still think it's a draw. Because that's exactly how this match is going on. Is it poor captaincy? Of course it's poor captaincy. There is no doubt about that. It is poor captaincy. But nobody will dare say that it's England's poor captaincy, knowing the relation we have had with this country for eons. If this was the other way around, everybody would have said, what poor captaincy. If that was 91 by Josh Butler, everybody would have said, wow, Josh Butler in his counter-attacking mode flattens India. But it's Rishabh Pant, so nobody even says that. And that's how the newspapers communicate. That's how they are influenced by them. It's so difficult to maybe praise certain players because of all the obsession streaming around. Yes, Sundar has played well. It's day 4. The only way England can win is if they say yes, no follow on. We have a lead around 240. We will bat for 25 overs. We will try and get 100 runs. We will get India target of 350, but that may not happen. Why? Because remember, West Indies chase nearly 400 runs against Bangladesh. But then that is the dilemma. This time, Sundar cuts, takes a single, and he will give the last 2 balls to Bumrah. Now this is a matter of debate which will be discussed. He has to take the strike, but he is exposing Bumrah to Anderson for 2 balls. Bumrah may get out. It will be called a foolish communication. This is the communication between these two. Bumrah is still a young person in the sport. Sundar, a very young person in years and experience, still a greenhorn. But that's how it is. He's on 85. He's shocked everybody. Then if an India bats like this, it's a flat wicket. But when England bats like this, India is bowled poorly. And that's how the communication skills are shown by the different media, pseudo experts, And this time edge, and I said, is that a catch? Yes, it's a catch. I told you Bumrah would get out like this. And Sundar remains unbeaten on 85. This will be debated for centuries. Should have he not taken a single? Had he not taken a single, he would have not got a strike in the next over. How do you balance that? But let's get back to reading as England celebrate a lead of 240. Now they are under pressure. They have to bat 25 overs, score around 150 runs so that India gets a target of 400. How long will England bat? They have around 15 minutes before lunch. Can India pick up 2 or 3 wickets? It was a very strange kind of a session. And the new ball, good catch by Stokes. Surprised that he didn't bowl. He's contributing with the catches, which is good. But let's finish this. On the other hand, there was no wound upon his person. While the state of Straker's knife, I think they will take lunch now because I don't think they will bat 15 overs, would show that one at least of his assailants must bear his mark upon him. And there you have it all in a nutshell. Watson, and if you can give me the light, I shall be definitely obliged to you. Let's take a
It's
short
11:50.
break. This ends episode number 323 on the 8th of Feb 2021.
For more awesome content, tune in to the next episode of the weekly show with Bada.